Welcome to Strictly Facts, a guide to Caribbean history and culture, hosted by me, Dr. Alexandria Miller. Strictly Facts teaches the history, politics, and activism of the Caribbean and connects these themes to contemporary music and popular culture. Welcome back to Strictly Facts, a guide to Caribbean history and culture, where we explore the stories, histories, and cultural moments that shape the Caribbean and its global diaspora. For Caribbean football fans, this has been a tremendous and historic World Cup. For the first time, the region was represented by two nations in a single staging. Curaçao made history as the smallest country ever by both population and the land area to qualify for the tournament, and Haiti also returned to the World Cup for the first time since 1974, both inspiring pride across the region and writing a new chapter in our collective football history. Moments like these remind us that, regardless of our size, the Caribbean has always punched above its weight class on the world stage. And whenever Caribbean nations make history in football, many of us are drawn back to particular moments that we can't forget. For Jamaicans, that moment is 1997. After decades of dreaming, the Reggae Boyz qualified for the 1998 FIFA World Cup in France, becoming the first ever English-speaking Caribbean nation to reach the tournament. It was a moment that transcended sport. Rumbakala beat, school and work was canceled. Jamaicans at home and across the diaspora celebrated together, united by a shared sense of possibility. And when Jamaica defeated Japan 2-1 to secure its first and to date only World Cup victory, thanks to Theodore Whitmore's unforgettable brace, that victory became part of our national story. As many of you know, Strictly Facts usually takes the form of one-to-one conversations, but today's episode is a little different. Rather than hearing one voice tell us this story, you'll hear from many. Over the past few weeks, I've invited friends and family to share their memories of Jamaica's journey to France '98. Some remember exactly where they were when qualification became official. Others remember hearing the celebrations echo throughout their communities. Together, these stories remind us that history is experienced differently by every person who lives it. Dates and scores tell us what happened, but memory tells us what these moments really mean. The joy, the anticipation, the national pride that statistics alone can never capture. As we celebrate Jamaica's 64th Independence Day, this episode is my small love letter to home. Independence gives us an opportunity to celebrate not only where we come from, but also the moments that have strengthened our sense of national identity. For Jamaicans, that journey to France '98 remains one of these defining moments, a moment when an entire nation and diaspora scattered across the globe stood together to celebrate, to hope, with unmistakable pride. And for me, this episode is also a love letter to my favorite parish, St. Elizabeth, and all of the people who shared their memories with me. As our home and much of the island has endured so much in the aftermath of Hurricane Melissa, these memories are more than reflections of football. They're snapshots of a community that celebrates together, mourns together, and continues to move forward together. So today, I invite you to sit back and listen not just to the history of Jamaica at the World Cup, but to many voices that remember it. Because sometimes the best way to understand history is not through a single narrative, but through the memories of the people who lived it. Let's get into it. What stands out in these first memories is how clearly people can still place themselves in that day. They remember where they were, who surrounded them, and what happened when qualification became official. Certain moments become reference points in our lives, dividing time into what came before and what came after. For Jamaicans, November 16th, 1997 became one of those moments. The Reggae Boyz had not simply won a place in the tournament, they had created a memory that people would continue carrying nearly 3 decades later.
So when Jamaica qualified for the World Cup in 98, well, they qualified in 97. I had just turned 12. And honestly, we didn't follow football on TV and stuff as much as we preferred playing it in the yard. So I just remember it was a Sunday evening. We came home from church. I didn't watch the game. I don't remember watching the game. Very likely that I was on the road with your older brother and our other friend. And I just remember hearing some excited shouting and going to find out what happened and overhear a conversation that the Prime Minister has declared tomorrow a national holiday because the Jamaicans has qualified for the World Cup. At that point, I didn't know exactly what that was because if the World Cup before that, I would have been 7, 8. That opened up a whole new world. I started to look into that. I said, "Oh, this is exciting." So I got very excited for the World Cup. I started to check out fixtures and all those things. But I remember thinking, can a prime minister do that? Just give a national holiday out? I wasn't mad at it. I didn't have to go to school.
When Jamaica qualified, I did it in ninth grade at high school.
I was in high school when Jamaica qualified for the World Cup.
All right, so Jamaica qualification for World Cup 1998. Remember this like it was just yesterday. I'm in a first form high school, and me and my auntie, uncle, couple of my cousins them in the living room. I watched the match against Mexico at the National Stadium. The match was a draw, but the draw was all we needed. And Virgin, we were so ecstatic. We started jump up, and the flooring was wood, right? And to how we had jump hard in the living room, one of the flooring board broke, right? Board broke right into. We have to get that replaced the next day. Because this was a Sunday. Yeah, man, remember it just like yesterday, man.
That day we qualified for World Cup 1998 was a 2-2 draw against El Salvador in the National Stadium. The whole place elated, excitement, and it was a good feeling knowing that we qualified for the 98 World Cup to head for France.
When the Reggae Boys qualified for World Cup, I was in grade 7, going to Black River High School. I remember the qualifying match right in Lacovia, around a small TV, when we got word that hey, the match drew and we finally made it through. It was just pure excitement. You could hear every Dutch pot top in our community and people screaming and people just full of joy.
Listening to these reflections, you begin to hear the same emotions repeated in different voices: disbelief, excitement, pride, and even relief. Jamaica had shown the world what was possible. For a nation still relatively young in its independence, seeing the black, green, and gold headed to the world's biggest football stage offered a powerful affirmation: we belong there, and the world would have to see us. That's something one can always take away from this moment, nearly 3 decades later.
It did feel good for know Jamaica qualified for the World Cup. The entire community that beamed with excitement for days.
It meant a lot to know that a small country like ours could accomplish a big achievement.
It meant everything to me and the family or the community at the time. And if you were living in Jamaica at that time, you would understand how this vibrated throughout the entire culture, right? Every single product, every single product were giving out football as prizes, under the covers of like sodas and these things. You could win football, Milo, all of these things. They were giving out footballs everywhere. So cricket was not being played anymore. Every corner, football was being played. Every single corner football. So it was just a frenzy. So for the family, the community, and the nation at large, I think the Monday was a public holiday as well. I think the Honorable PJ Patterson had made the Monday following the qualification a national holiday. I'm not 100% sure on that, but that's how magnificent this moment was.
We actually got the next day off from school. It was just so excited.
Yeah, everybody was elated, you know. Everybody was elated. Crazy momentum, you know. It was history. Yeah, historical moment, historical people. And it's just history Jamaican people create all the time, you know.
What it meant for my family was, well, we were business people, so I remember them not being very happy about the holiday. I remember that. The spur of the moment holiday, but what can you do? As for the community, people are just excited. I remember thinking that the last time I felt this kind of excitement was in '96, the Olympics, and all the hopes and dreams that we had regarding Merlin Otti. And people were just proud because it was historic. I think it was the first time an English-speaking country from the Caribbean got that far up. So, I know we as Jamaicans, we love to be proud about stuff we as Jamaicans do. So everybody was just, beaming. That's what I remember.
That moment, it just meant so much for our family, meant so much for our community. It was just a time just full of joy. We're just so happy and just so proud of them that they actually will be on the stage that they are. From year to year, we sit down and watch the Olympics. From year to year, we sit down and watch World Cup. And just to know that our little island will be on such a big stage, it was just pure jubilation. We were just so happy.
Listening to these reflections, you begin to hear the same emotions repeated in different voices. Disbelief, excitement, pride, even relief. Jamaica had shown the world what was possible for a nation still relatively young in its independence. Seeing the black, green, and gold headed to the world's biggest football stage offered a powerful affirmation. We belong there, and the world would have to see us. That's something no one can ever take away from us. And nearly 30 years later, you can still hear the pride in every story.
So how did people around you celebrate or react when Jamaica made it to the World Cup? It was like the heights of national pride, right? I wasn't around when Bob Marley was on stage making his grand performances, but the national pride you felt, it's just something that really cannot be explained. Well, it can be explained, but you won't get the full gist of it. It's something that you had to experience. You had to be in the country to actually feel this. It's almost a pride I felt when I saw Usain Bolt and Shellyan and the track team doing these amazing things on the world stage. That is how I felt. To be playing the PlayStation and you could choose Jamaica and these guys that are Jamaicans. You could pick them on a game, you see the name and you could use them. That was just so, out of this world in my young mind, and what you would also find was people get a different exposure to international football. So people were changing their last name, adding O's to it, so it feels like they are a Brazilian, right? Or they were going with putting a Vich on their name to make it seem as if they were Croatian, right? Just because it sounded good. So just adding something to your name, amplify the kind of passion you wanted, right? So like, say for instance, somebody's name was Martin, they would call themselves Martinovich, that kind of thing, or Martinho, to sound like they're Brazilian. So, this is how grand this thing was. It changed the entire complexion of sport in the country.
The country celebrated, people around us celebrated by knocking pates, blowing horns. We felt proud, or I felt proud as a Jamaican to know that we qualified for the World Cup out of so many countries.
Then they have one Reggae Boyz song out. So that song we did play everywhere. People did go in a motorcade all over the place. The customary for in Jamaica excited about something, we knock pan and blow horn. And for fans we have a deeper passion for the sport, them wear their jersey everywhere.
Well, as I can tell you, I remember the noise I remember being on the street, on the road, because I can't recall watching the game. Cannot recall watching the qualifier. At 11 years old, I was not interested in watching football on TV. So more like I was on the road. I just remember shouting, if the memory is correct. I just remember a lot of loud cheers. So that's how people celebrated. And pot covers, my God, I heard a lot of pot covers getting knocked together. Yeah. That happened to when the loudest I heard that was every goal. For every goal throughout the entire World Cup, every goal that Jamaica scored, I think it scored 3 goals in total. There was pot covers being beaten all over the community. You could hear it. It was exciting. It was exciting and very unifying in a sense that, every facet, every person, Indian, chief, doctor, lawyer, you know, the smallest man to the biggest man, run out of the house with him pot cover and beat it. Yeah, I remember thinking that was pretty cool.
Well, people from the diaspora was feeling real good moments, good momentum within them own self, spiritual vibes, and knowing that we all are one, maybe different places, but we all are one. And we made it because we represent each other in any competition. We always be there as a support from the diaspora. So Caribbean people, African people, people from within. It was a good feeling. It was a good move, and everybody was related. And yeah, etc., etc., etc. Yeah.
It was just so excited. We celebrated that, yes, we are on the big stage, but we also celebrated because we got the next day off from school, and it was just pure excitement, total excitement. It was just madness in a good way.
Boy, we love our pot cover. We love our pot cover. You can almost hear the atmosphere through these stories. What made the moment so memorable was not only what happened on the field, but what happened afterward throughout Jamaica and the diaspora. The celebration transformed roads, homes, bars, schools, and communities into extensions of the stadium. It was one of those rare occasions when joy seemed to belong to everyone at once.
So watch Jamaica play, I did one tense experience still. Cause some of the time them Jamaica I play against with other favorite team, and it obvious said there would be prejudice because we want Jamaica to win and we want our next team to win same time, so it kind of conflicting. But overall, it is just nice and it's just exciting.
Specifically, I can remember the Croatia game, thinking, why is everybody on the team? Why does everybody on the team, the Croatian team, have the name end with Vij? I remember thinking that, and I just enjoyed the football match and came away feeling very proud that we were able to score on a team ranked higher than us, and you know, hoping we could beat them. Like you know how it goes, and people are just excited and just happy for them to be there. As for the Argentina game, oh, it was rough. It was rough. Those goals, those 5 goals, man. It was really rough, the Argentina game. But, nobody gave up hope. Everybody was still cheering our boys on. Very happy that we're there representing. By the Japan game, where I think that game wasn't a weekend. That was kind of a weekday. People were at work. I was at home by myself. I just had the TV on going while I was doing stuff. I think every other game was on a day that or at a time where people was at the house and we could watch it maybe a weekend or something. I'm not sure about that. I just have that kind of memory that multiple people in the house watching the other games. But for the Japan game, I remember I was there by myself. It was a weekday. I was getting ready to go to school. I was on evening shift. I just had it playing in the background.
No, man, watching Jamaica playing the World Cup, that was really surreal, right? That was surreal. It was kind of crushing when, they went out I think the last 3-1 to Croatia, the last 5-0 to Argentina. But when they beat Japan, even though, they were going to be eliminated, But that gave us a sense of pride, to know that you could compete with such a big nation and beat them, right? That was massive. That was grand. And even in that Croatia match, it wasn't a walkover because Robbie Earl had scored that equalizer just on the brink of halftime, so went into halftime 1-1, right? So there was some real moment of brilliance, moment of pride, as I said earlier.
Yeah, without a doubt, straight up, we had known that we had to take it to the highest stage of football, and there wasn't any doubt within the resilience and the quality of the players and the dedication of the people behind the team too. Yeah, it was tremendously great. So it was a good move qualifying for 98 tour.
A number of emotions were at play while watching those matches. Like, I felt excited just to see us on that stage. The pride of our national anthem playing was just overwhelming. I can remember the faces of the players. Every time I think about the World Cup, I think about just visualizing the players' faces. I remember Cargill and Shorty and Mr. Bodison and just Mr. Blackerboard. It was just absolutely exciting. I felt nervous, hoping that we would actually either draw or score a goal. I remember against the match with Argentina, I was praying and hoping that no more balls would pass Barrett. I was also hoping that, that we would just surprise the world and score some goals and advance to the next round. I felt pride again when we won the game against Japan. Yet I was sad because we didn't make it to the next round. But at the same time, I think overall, I was just, we as a country, we were just happy and we were just bursting with pride just to see that our boys were representing us on that stage and they were representing us well.
While memory doesn't always preserve an event in perfect chronological order, sometimes what remains is a single image, a song, a voice on the radio, the sound of a crowd. These details may seem small, but together they tell us how history was experienced. Scores and dates document what occurred, while moments like these help us understand its texture, how the moment sounded, how it moved through the communities, and how it felt to be Jamaican within it.
I just remember the pot covers again, going crazy for every goal. That will always be the image that I remember.
Something that stood out to me during the World Cup was the playing of our national anthem. That was a very proud moment.
For World Cup, we have one song. The song, the name Rise Up. One whole heap of different artists depend it, but every day, everywhere we go, all we are here is Rise Up. And the song did nice, we're not gonna lie. It did have a vibe to it.
I mean, look, that song, the World Cup song we have, whoa, whoa, that World Cup song that we had, that like you cannot get beyond that. Even now, when that song is played, it is like it trigger this sense of pride, this sense of happiness. So that song in particular was everything. The team, Dean Burton and these guys, Walter Boyd was a top striker, but again, he had some discipline issues. So his discipline got the better of him, and he didn't get to do as much for Jamaica as he had the ability to do, right? But yeah, man, that memory, the song in particular, man, that was it for me. Like that was the trigger for every single thing. Everything was around that. Yeah, it's time to rise up, shine, and take your place. No, that song, trust me, man, that could be the second string national anthem star.
Image that comes to mind when I think about the World Cup is just the squad, just the image of the boys together. Um, some were laying down on the grass, some were standing up. Um, the joy that comes with seeing our country united and just excited over how far the boys came or gone or had gone. I remember going to KFC, and when we get our meals would come in the boxes, and on the boxes it was covered with the faces of the boys. I remember the T-shirts and the polo shirts and the football cups that you used to get, and I remember that they were everywhere, and companies were having a marketing party and a field day with just having the boys splattered over their products. It was, as I said, it was everywhere. For the KFC box, I remember cutting out the picture of one of the boxes where I had the picture. I stored it in my little black diary, and for years I had that all the way into my adulthood. It very much could still be at my mother's house because that little book is still at my mom's house, and it was hidden inside that book. And so I've had that for years, and every time I see it, I just remember. It just takes me back to that time, and just the pride that we felt. And so we were just overall just very, very proud.
France 98 gave Jamaica an opportunity to represent another dimension of itself. Already known for its music and culture and unmistakable influence, the Reggae Boys offered another extension of national ambition. Their qualification challenged assumptions about what a small Caribbean nation could accomplish and demonstrated that Jamaica could compete on football's largest stage. Just as importantly, it changed how Jamaicans saw themselves. The dream was no longer hypothetical. We made it.
That moment there enhanced with national pride. The average man in the street walk with him chest even higher. For the international stage, soccer lovers, or either say football lovers, they say Jamaica as a more formidable opponent, earning a position as a contender to challenge some of the established greats in the field of football.
What I would think about is that we can perform as good as or even better than much bigger countries. We can punch above our weight. We can stand on the world stage, shoulder to shoulder, with much bigger countries, with much longer histories, with much more money to put into their programs. We can go there. It's not just the big rich countries that can fund their teams properly and train their teams properly. Little Jamaica can, perform on the world stage.
I don't think that moment changed the way how the world saw Jamaica or how I saw Jamaica. Look, the history of Jamaica is grand, right? And I've always been interested in history, right? So looking back now, I wouldn't say it changed it, but it pretty much cemented it or just strengthened the reputation that we already had or amplified the reputation that we already had, right? We had a great reputation in cricket, even though that is somewhat attributed to the West Indies. Our track athletes have always been good. We've had Bob Marley, we've had Marcus Garvey, we've had so much cultural icons, right? That has made it big on the world stage. So in 1998, this was just another genre of greatness, right? We weren't seen as this great footballing nation, and at this point we were ranked about 45 and 43. We were fluctuating between those two numbers in the FIFA World ranking of football teams in the world. And I think this was out of, at the time, probably 200 or 200 and something teams. So for such a little nation that is swallowed up by most of these other countries, that was a big achievement. So I wouldn't say it changed it, but I would say it just amplified and further legitimized the greatness of this nation into another genre, not just in track and music and other cultural things, but also in football.
I think that moment marked every moment since that you've seen Jamaica on the big stage. I think it had set the tone for just all the other things that you've seen us with in terms of the Olympics and all that. As Jamaicans, we showed the world that we can show up on little stage, we show up on big stage as well. And there is nothing too hard that we as a people can't do. It showed me just how united that we can be as a people, and how sports have a way of pulling us together.
Qualifying was historic, but watching Jamaica actually walk onto the field in France made the achievement real. The matches against Croatia and Argentina tested the team against established football powers, while the victory over Japan gave Jamaica its first World Cup win and one of the tournament's most enduring national memories. Yet these reflections show that the meaning cannot be reduced to wins and losses. Each match carried the hopes of an island and its diaspora. Simply seeing Jamaica there, represented in our notorious jersey, was itself a source of extraordinary pride.
That World Cup put things into gear, that really turned up the pressure for everybody to say, all right, we can do this too. So not only Jamaica, but the rest of the Caribbean. That's what I think that World Cup meant.
All right, so Jamaica over the years, we have a saying, we say, we little but we talawa. Such a monumental achievement take Jamaica up on a next level where it concern international exposure. For decades, we Jamaicans are right on the back of our cultural highlights of Rastafari, reggae music, jerk chicken, and patois, to name a few. Now we can state we will establish Jamaican pride. We are the home of the reggae boys.
Looking back now, I think that moment represents a grand moment, like a milestone in the history, in global history, not just for Jamaica, but for the Caribbean. We were the first English speaking country in the Caribbean to go to the World Cup. And I think it was two World Cups after that before Trinidad had made it to the World Cup. And until this current World Cup, there wasn't another side from the Caribbean, the English speaking Caribbean, to make it. So, that was almost like setting the trend, pioneering a different kind of move for the region into this very competitive global sport. And again, I think, in that light, Jamaica could be seen as a beacon once more, as this very important country within the English speaking Caribbean. That's how it positioned us.
That moment demonstrates that we went to the World Cup before and we can do it again. And it serves as an encouragement to younger Jamaicans and to other small islands that we are small, but we can do big things, and we can show up on big stage and represent ourselves as a people, and represent the Caribbean, and represent just even other smaller nations across the world that who perhaps never think that, hey, we are too small, so you'll never see us on that particular stage. It also shows that we should never underestimate our size, because as a country, we were united around a cause, and when we get united around a cause, we do amazing things, and there are many things that we can do.
As we close, I keep returning to the many ways one historical event can live within different people. No two contributors remembered France 98 in exactly the same way, but together their stories form a fuller picture of what that moment meant: anticipation, celebration, and enduring love for our island. Thank you to every friend and family member who trusted me with these memories. Your voices made this episode possible, and they remind us that our collective history is built through the stories our communities preserve and pass down. And again, this episode is my love letter to Senti. Every voice you heard belongs to someone connected to the parish that raised me. At a time when St. Elizabeth and much of the island is still recovering from Hurricane Melissa, I wanted to honor home through memories of a moment when Jamaicans gathered for joy and believed together. These stories reflect so much of what I cherish about our parish: our humor, warmth, resilience, community spirit, and pride. And of course, you can still give back and support hurricane relief efforts at the link in our bio. Lastly, as Jamaica celebrates 64 years of independence, may we continue to remember the memories that unite us, honor the people who carry our stories, and believe in everything our small but mighty island can accomplish. I'd love to hear from you. Where were you when the Reggae Boys qualified for France 98? And for our younger listeners and neighbors in the diaspora and in the region, rather, where were you when you learned that Curacao or Haiti qualified? Share your memories with us because every voice helps tell a Caribbean story. Until next time, look more. Thanks for tuning in to Strictly Facts. Visit strictlyfactspod.com for more information on each episode, and you can find all of our social media platforms there to stay connected.